In a quiet corner of the city, tucked between an old bookstore and a bustling coffee shop, stood a small flower shop called Blossoms and Beyond. It wasn't fancy or flashy, but it had a charm that drew people in. The shop belonged to Mia, a soft-spoken woman in her early 30s who poured her heart into every bouquet she made. For Mia, flowers weren't just petals and stems. They were stories waiting to be told. Whether it was for love, celebration, or healing, each arrangement carried meaning, and Mia took pride in helping others express what words sometimes couldn't. Every morning, Mia would unlock the door, turn on the lights, and breathe in the fresh scent of blooms. She loved this time before customers arrived. It gave her a moment to connect with the flowers, to feel their energy. But today felt different. As she arranged a bunch of sunflowers near the window, the bell above the door jingled softly. In walked a man who looked completely out of place among the vibrant colors of the shop. He was dressed casually, jeans, a plain sweater, and scuffed sneakers, but there was something about him that caught Mia's attention. His eyes looked tired, like he hadn't slept well in days, but they also held a quiet warmth. He hesitated by the entrance, glancing around as if unsure where to start. Mia smiled warmly and stepped forward. "Hi there. Can I help you find something?" "Special today?" The man nodded slowly. "Yeah, I think so. I need, flowers." He paused, rubbing the back of his neck nervously. "But honestly, I don't know much about them. My daughter suggested I come here." Mia tilted her head slightly, intrigued. There was something vulnerable about the way he spoke, almost hesitant. "Sure thing," she said gently. "Why don't we start with what you're looking for? Are these flowers for someone specific?" He hesitated again, then sighed. "It's for my wife. Well, my late wife. Today's her birthday, or rather, it would have been." Mia's heart softened instantly. She could see the pain in his expression, the weight of memories pressing down on him. "I'm so sorry for your loss," she said sincerely. "That must be really hard." "It is," he admitted quietly. "Her name was Emily. She passed away 5 years ago. Our daughter, Lily, wanted me to bring flowers this year. Something pretty," she said, "to show how much I still care." Mia nodded, understanding why he seemed so lost. Choosing flowers for someone you've lost isn't easy. It's not just about picking something nice, it's about finding something that feels right, something that honors the person you loved. And clearly, this man didn't want to get it. "Wrong. Let me help you," Mia offered with a reassuring smile. "Tell me about Emily. What was she like?" As he began talking, Mia listened intently. She learned that Emily loved bright colors, especially yellows and whites, that she had a laugh that could light up a room, that she always chose practical gifts over extravagant ones because she believed in meaning over materialism. With each detail, Mia pieced together a mental picture of Emily. Slowly, she guided him through the shop, pointing out flowers that matched his descriptions. Sunflowers for her cheerful spirit, white roses for purity and remembrance, a touch of lavender for calmness and grace. Together, they created a bouquet that felt both simple and deeply personal. Throughout the process, Mia noticed how careful he was with every choice, how much thought went into even the smallest decisions. It was clear that Emily meant the world to him, and that losing her had left a void no one could ever truly fill. When the bouquet was finally ready, wrapped neatly in brown paper and tied with twine, the man looked at it with a mix of sadness and gratitude. "Thank you," he said softly. "You made this so much easier." Mia smiled. "I'm glad I could help. If you ever need anything else, just let me know." As he turned to leave, Mia couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this man than met the eye. There was a quiet strength about him, a sense of purpose beneath his humble demeanor. But she pushed those thoughts aside, focusing instead on the satisfaction of knowing she'd helped someone navigate such a difficult moment. Little did she know, this encounter was only the beginning of a story far bigger than either of them could have imagined. The man stood by the counter, clutching the bouquet Mia had carefully prepared for him. He looked down at it, his fingers tracing the edges of the brown paper wrapping. For a moment he seemed lost in thought, as if the flowers carried more weight than just petals and stems. Mia watched him quietly, giving him space but staying close enough to let him know she was there if he needed her. Finally, he looked up and said, "You know, I don't think I could have done this without your help. Honestly, I didn't even know where to start." Mia smiled warmly. "That's what I'm here for. Flowers can be tricky, especially when they're meant to say something important. But you did great. You picked exactly what feels right." He nodded slowly, still staring at the bouquet. Then, almost hesitantly, he added, "Emily always took care of stuff like this. She had a way with flowers, with everything, really. After she passed, I guess I stopped paying attention to things like this. It's hard, you know? Like, how do you keep going when someone so central to your life is suddenly gone?" His voice cracked slightly on the last word, and Mia felt a lump rise in her throat. She knew that kind of pain all too well. Losing her mother years ago had left a void she still felt every day. But instead of letting the sadness overwhelm her, she chose to focus on the connection they were building right now. This wasn't just about flowers anymore. It was about two people sharing a deeply human experience. "I can't imagine how tough that must have been," Mia said softly. "But it sounds like Emily gave you a lot of beautiful memories to hold on to. And from what you've told me about her, I think she'd be proud of how you're keeping her memory alive, for yourself and for your daughter." The man's eyes softened at the mention of his daughter. "Lily," he said, his voice steadying. "She's 8 now. Every year we go to the cemetery together to visit Emily. It's become our thing, you know? But this year Lily insisted I bring flowers. She said, 'Dad, Mommy loved pretty things. You should get her some.'" He chuckled lightly, though there was a hint of sadness behind it. Kids have a way of saying things that cut straight to the heart, don't they? "They really do," Mia agreed, thinking of her own childhood, and how her mother used to arrange flowers for family gatherings. "They remind us of what matters most." For a while, they talked more about Emily. Her favorite songs, the little quirks that made her unique, the way she lit up a room with her laugh. As the man shared these details, Mia noticed how his posture relaxed, how the tension in his shoulders eased. Talking about Emily clearly brought him both comfort and pain, but it also seemed to ground him, connecting him to something bigger than himself. When the conversation eventually slowed, Mia asked gently, "Do you mind me asking, what do you do when you're not visiting Emily or spending time with Lily? Do you work nearby?" He hesitated, as if unsure whether to answer. Then with a faint smile, he said, "I run a company, tech stuff. Nothing exciting, really." Mia raised an eyebrow playfully. "Nothing exciting? Running a company sounds pretty exciting to me." "What kind of tech?" "Software," he replied, shrugging modestly. "We make tools to help businesses organize their data better. It's not glamorous, but it keeps me busy." Mia nodded, sensing that he wasn't the type to boast about his achievements. Still, she couldn't help but admire his humility. Most people who ran companies seemed larger than life, full of confidence and charisma. But this man, despite his success, was refreshingly down to earth. There was no pretense, no attempt to impress. He was simply a person trying to navigate life one step at a time. As they wrapped up their conversation, the man reached into his pocket and pulled out his wallet. "How much do I owe you?" he asked. Mia glanced at the bouquet and quickly calculated the cost. $25, she said, holding out her hand for payment. The man handed over a $50 bill. "Keep the change," he said firmly when Mia tried to protest. "You've earned it." Before she could argue further, he turned toward the door, cradling the bouquet in his arms like it was the most precious thing in the world. Just before stepping outside, he paused and looked back at her. "Thank you again," he said sincerely. "This meant more to me than you know." "You're welcome," Mia replied, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "Take care of yourself and Lily, too." With that, he disappeared through the doorway, leaving Mia standing alone in the quiet shop. The bell above the door jingled, softly as it closed, and for a long moment, She simply stared at the empty space where he had been. There was something about him that lingered in her mind, a mix of vulnerability and strength, of loss and resilience. She wondered what his life was like outside the walls of her flower shop. Was he always this humble, this genuine? Or was there another side to him, one hidden beneath the surface? Later that evening, as Mia tidied up the shop and prepared to head home, she found herself replaying their conversation in her head. Something about the way he spoke, the raw honesty in his words, stayed with her long after the lights were turned off and the door locked. Unbeknownst to Mia, this chance encounter would ripple through her life in ways she couldn't yet imagine. For now, though, she tucked the memory away, grateful for the brief connection they had shared. Little did she know, this was only the beginning of a story that would change both their lives forever. The next morning, Mia woke up with the image of the man still lingering in her mind. It wasn't just his words or the way he carried himself. It was the quiet strength beneath his vulnerability that stayed with her. She couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to him than met the eye. Most people who came into her shop were polite, sure, but few opened up the way he had. There was something deeply human about their interaction, something raw and real that made her feel like she'd been part of something meaningful. As she unlocked the door to Blossoms and Beyond and stepped inside, the familiar scent of fresh flowers greeted her. The shop felt alive, buzzing with color and energy. But today it also felt quieter somehow, as though the space itself was holding its breath, waiting for something new to happen. Mia shook off the thought and got to work arranging bouquets for the day's orders. Still, her mind kept drifting back to the man from yesterday, the way he'd talked about Emily, the care he put into choosing each flower, the gratitude in his voice when he left. Around mid-morning, the bell above the door jingled again, pulling her out of her thoughts. A delivery person walked in carrying a large box wrapped in brown paper and tied with twine. Mia frowned slightly. She hadn't ordered anything recently. "Delivery for Mia Thompson," the person announced, setting the box on the counter. "For me?" Mia asked, surprised. "Are you sure?" The delivery person nodded and handed her a clipboard to sign. "Yep, this is yours." Once they left, Mia carefully untied the twine and opened the box. Inside was an exquisite arrangement of orchids and peonies, their delicate petals glowing softly in the morning light. Nestled among the blooms was a small card. Her heart skipped a beat as she picked it up and read the handwritten note. "Dear Mia, thank you for helping me pick the perfect bouquet last week. Your kindness meant more to me than words can express. Please accept these flowers as a token of gratitude. Daniel." Mia stared at the note, her fingers brushing over the elegant handwriting. The name, Daniel, clicked instantly. It was the man from the other day. A rush of warmth spread through her chest as she realized he had gone out of his way to send her such a thoughtful gift. The flowers were stunning, far more luxurious than anything she typically handled in her shop. Orchids weren't cheap, and neither were peonies. They were the kind of blooms reserved for special occasions. But what struck her most wasn't the cost. It was the gesture itself. Daniel could have simply said thank you and moved on with his life, but instead, he chose to acknowledge her role in his journey. That level of thoughtfulness was rare, especially in a world where people often forgot the little things. Curious, Mia glanced back into the box and noticed something else tucked beneath the ribbon, a business card. Picking it up, she froze. Printed neatly on the card were the words, CEO of Carter Tech. Her jaw dropped. Carter Tech? The name rang a bell. It was one of the biggest tech companies in the country, known for revolutionizing data management systems. Images flashed through her mind of magazine covers featuring interviews with the company's founder, articles praising his leadership, and headlines about his success. And yet, the man who ran that empire had walked into her tiny flower shop, dressed in jeans and a sweater, humbly asking for help picking flowers. Mia sat down on the stool behind the counter, the card still in her hand. How could someone so powerful seem so ordinary? In all her years running the shop, she'd never encountered anyone quite like Daniel. He didn't act like a CEO. He acted like a person, someone dealing with loss, raising a child alone, and trying to honor the memory of the woman he loved. His humility left her speechless. After a while, Mia decided to write back. She grabbed a piece of stationery from her desk and began drafting a note. At first, she struggled to find the right words. How do you respond to someone who sent you such a lavish gift without sounding awkward or overly formal? Eventually, she settled on simplicity. Dear Daniel, thank you so much for the beautiful flowers. They're absolutely stunning, and your kindness has touched my heart. Enclosed is a small potted plant, a symbol of growth and resilience. I hope it brings you and Lily joy. Warm regards, Mia. She wrapped the potted plant, a sturdy jade plant with glossy green leaves, and included the note before dropping it off at the post office later that afternoon. As she handed it over to the clerk, she couldn't help but smile. Something about this exchange felt different from any customer interaction she'd ever had. It wasn't transactional, it was personal, human. A few days passed, and Mia tried to return to her usual routine. She arranged bouquets, chatted with regular customers, and tended to the plants in the shop. But every time the bell above the door jingled, she found herself glancing up, half expecting Daniel to walk in again. When her phone buzzed late one evening, she nearly jumped out of her seat. It wasn't often she received texts from unknown numbers. The message was short but sweet. Mia, thank you for the plant. It's sitting on my desk now. Would love to take you to lunch sometime to properly thank you. Let me know if you're free. Mia read the message twice, her heart skipping. A beat? Lunch with Daniel? Part of her wondered if this was a good idea, if mixing her professional life with something deeper might complicate things. But another part of her, the part that remembered how genuine he'd been in her shop, felt drawn to the idea. Here was someone who understood loss, who valued connection, and who seemed eager to build something meaningful. She typed out a reply. I'd love that. Let me know what works for you. Within minutes, he responded. How about Friday? There's a cafe downtown I think you'll like. Friday came quickly, and as Mia prepared for their meeting, she couldn't deny the flutter of nerves in her stomach. What would they talk about? Would it feel strange, given the difference in their worlds? Or would it be just like their first conversation? Natural, easy, and full of shared humanity. When she arrived at the cafe, Daniel was already there, sitting at a corner table with a cup of coffee in front of him. He stood up as soon as he saw her, smiling warmly. Hi, Mia. Thanks for coming. No problem, she replied, returning his smile. This place looks great. They spent the next 2 hours talking, not just about flowers or work, but about everything. They discussed their favorite books, their childhood memories, their dreams for the future. Daniel told her more about Lily, describing her quirky sense of humor and her love for painting. Mia shared stories about her mother, how she'd taught her to see beauty in even the smallest details. By the end of the meal, both of them felt lighter, as though the weight of their individual struggles had eased just a little. For Mia, it was refreshing to connect with someone who truly listened, to feel seen and understood. For Daniel, it was comforting to spend time with someone outside the high-pressure world of tech, someone who reminded him of the importance of simple joys. As they parted ways that afternoon, Daniel said, "We should do this again soon. Maybe next time you can meet Lily." Mia smiled, touched by the invitation. I'd like that. Walking home, Mia realized that this unexpected friendship was becoming something more. It wasn't just about gratitude or shared experiences. It was about finding solace in each other's company, about building a bond rooted in honesty and mutual respect. And as she looked ahead, she couldn't help but wonder where this path might lead. The days following their lunch felt lighter for both Mia and Daniel. For the first time in years, Daniel found himself looking forward to something beyond work meetings and deadlines. The weight of loneliness that had settled over him since Emily's passing seemed a little easier to carry now. And for Mia, meeting Daniel had sparked a sense of curiosity about life outside her flower shop, a reminder that connections could blossom in unexpected places. True to his word, Daniel invited Mia to meet Lily the following weekend. He suggested they visit the local park where he often took his daughter on weekends. It's nothing fancy, he said when he called to confirm. Just some swings, a playground, and a pond where we sometimes feed ducks. But it's one of our favorite spots. Mia agreed immediately, though she couldn't deny the flutter of nerves in her stomach. Meeting someone's child was always a big step. It meant opening yourself up to another layer of vulnerability. Still, she trusted Daniel enough to know this wasn't something he'd suggest lightly. If anything, it showed how much he valued her presence in his life. On Saturday morning, Mia arrived at the park, carrying a small bouquet of wildflowers. She figured they might brighten the day, even if only symbolically. As she walked toward the playground, she spotted Daniel sitting on a bench under a sprawling oak tree. Beside him was a little girl with curly brown hair and bright eyes, busy, coloring in a sketchpad. That must be Lily, Mia thought, smiling softly. There was something endearing about the way the girl sat cross-legged on the bench, completely absorbed in her artwork. Daniel noticed Mia approaching and stood up, waving her over. "Hey, you made it," he said warmly. Turning to Lily, he added, "This is Mia, the florist I told you about." Lily looked up from her drawing, her expression curious but friendly. "Hi, Mia," she said shyly, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Dad said you helped him pick flowers for Mommy. Thank you." Mia's heart melted at the sincerity in the girl's voice. Kneeling down so she was closer to Lily's height, she handed over the bouquet. "These are for you," she said gently. "I thought they'd match your colorful drawings." Lily's face lit up as she took the flowers. "Wow, they're so pretty. Can I draw them later?" "Of course," Mia replied, laughing softly. They'd make a great subject. For the next hour, the three of them wandered around the park together. Lily chattered excitedly about school, her favorite animals, and the stories she liked to write. At one point, she grabbed Mia's hand and pulled her toward the duck pond, insisting they throw breadcrumbs into the water. Watching the ducks waddle and splash brought out giggles from all of them, filling the air with an easy kind of joy. As they strolled back to the bench, Daniel glanced at Mia and smiled. "She doesn't usually warm up to people this fast," he admitted quietly. "You must have done something right." Mia shrugged modestly, though she felt a swell of pride. Kids are intuitive. They can tell when someone genuinely cares. Later that afternoon, after Lily had grown tired and fallen asleep in her father's arms, Daniel and Mia sat side by side on the bench, watching the sun dip lower in the sky. The golden light filtered through the trees, casting long shadows across the grass. It was peaceful, just the two of them sharing a quiet moment amidst the beauty of nature. "You know," Daniel began, breaking the silence, "I haven't felt like this in a long time. Like, hopeful maybe? Being around you and Lily reminds me that life doesn't stop, even when things feel impossible." Mia turned to look at him, seeing the honesty in his eyes. "I get it," she said softly. "Loss changes you. But it doesn't mean you stop living, you just learn to carry it differently." He nodded, his gaze drifting to Lily's sleeping form. "Emily would have loved you," he murmured. "She always appreciated kindness in others. And you." He paused, searching for the right words. "You have this way of making people feel seen. It's rare." Mia felt her cheeks flush at the compliment. "I think you give me too much credit," she said lightly, trying to deflect the intensity of his words. "But thank you." Over the weeks that followed, their bond deepened. Daniel introduced Mia to more of his world, not the flashy corporate side, but the personal parts he cherished. They visited art galleries, explored farmers' markets, and spent lazy Sundays baking cookies in his kitchen while Lily painted pictures at the table. Each outing felt like another thread weaving them closer together. At the same time, Mia opened up parts of her life to Daniel. She showed him her favorite hiking trails, taught him how to arrange bouquets, and shared stories about growing up with her mother. Slowly, they became fixtures in each other's routines, supporting one another in ways neither had anticipated. One evening, as they sat on Mia's porch sipping tea, Daniel asked a question that caught her off guard. "Do you ever think about what comes next? Not tomorrow or next week, but Further ahead? Mia tilted her head, considering his words. Sometimes, she admitted. Why do you ask? He hesitated, then sighed. Because I want whatever we're building here to last. I don't want to rush anything. I know relationships take time, but I also don't want to waste it. Life's too short for that. His vulnerability struck a chord within her. Leaning forward, she placed a hand on his arm. We'll figure it out, she said firmly. Together. That night, as Mia lay in bed replaying their conversation, she realized something profound. Daniel wasn't just filling a void in her life. He was helping her rediscover pieces of herself she'd forgotten, and in return, she was doing the same for him. Their connection wasn't about replacing what they'd lost. It was about honoring those memories while embracing the possibility of new beginnings. Little did they know, their journey was far from over. What started as a simple act of kindness in a flower shop was evolving into something extraordinary, a testament to the power of human connection and the resilience of the heart. As the months rolled by, Mia and Daniel's bond grew stronger with each passing day. Their relationship wasn't perfect, it never is, but it was real, rooted in mutual understanding and respect. They learned to navigate the complexities of blending two lives that had been shaped by loss, yet they found comfort in knowing they weren't alone anymore. Together they created a rhythm that felt natural, one that allowed them to heal while still honoring the people who had come before. One crisp autumn morning, Daniel invited Mia to join him and Lily for their annual visit to Emily's grave. It's something we do every year on her birthday, he explained gently. I'd like you to come if you're comfortable. Mia hesitated at first. She knew how sacred this tradition was for Daniel and Lily, and she didn't want to intrude. But when Daniel added, Emily would have liked you, she felt reassured. This wasn't about replacing anyone. It was about sharing a moment of remembrance of love that transcended time. On the day of the visit, Mia brought along a small bouquet of sunflowers and lavender, carefully arranging them the night before. When they arrived at the cemetery, the air was cool and still, filled with the rustling of leaves overhead. Lily clung to Daniel's hand as they made their way to Emily's headstone, which was adorned with fresh flowers from previous visitors. Standing there, Mia felt a lump rise in her throat. The inscription on the stone read, Beloved Wife and Mother. It was simple but profound, capturing the essence of who Emily had been. For a moment, Mia wondered what it must have been like to know her, to share laughter, dreams, and everyday moments with someone so deeply cherished. Daniel knelt down and placed the bouquet Mia had helped him pick weeks earlier beside the headstone. His voice was soft as he spoke. Happy birthday, Em. We miss you more than words can say. Lily stepped forward next, setting down a drawing she'd made. A colorful portrait of a family holding hands under a bright sun. Hi, Mommy, she whispered. I hope you like my picture. I drew it just for you. Finally, it was Mia's turn. With trembling hands, she laid her bouquet at the base of the stone. Thank you, she murmured quietly. Though her words were brief, they carried weight. Gratitude not only for Emily's memory, but also for the role she played in bringing Mia and Daniel together. Afterward, as they walked back to the car, Lily skipped ahead, humming a tune she'd learned at school. Daniel slowed his pace, falling into step beside Mia. That meant a lot to me, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Having you here today, it felt right. Mia smiled, though tears glistened in her eyes. I'm glad I came. Thank you for letting me be part of this. The visit marked a turning point in their relationship. It wasn't just about building a future together. It was about integrating the past into their present, creating a tapestry of shared experiences that honored everyone involved. For Daniel, it reinforced the idea that loving Mia didn't diminish his love for Emily. It simply expanded it, allowing room for new memories without erasing the old ones. Around the same time, Daniel began encouraging Mia to dream bigger for her flower shop. He admired her passion and dedication, but noticed how often she downplayed her own talents. One evening over dinner at his place, he broached the topic. You know, he said casually, you've got a gift. Your arrangements aren't just pretty, they tell stories. Have you ever thought about expanding Blossoms and Beyond? Maybe opening a second location or offering workshops? Mia laughed nervously, brushing off the suggestion. Oh, I don't know about all that. Running one shop keeps me busy enough. But Daniel persisted, his tone gentle but firm. Think about it, though. You inspire people every day with your work. Why not reach even more of them? I could help, introduce you to some contacts, maybe even invest if you need it. At first, Mia resisted the idea. She'd always prided herself on keeping her business small and personal, fearing that growth might dilute its charm. But as Daniel continued to encourage, her planting seeds of possibility, she started to see things differently. What if expanding didn't mean losing what made her shop special? What if it meant amplifying the joy she brought to others? With Daniel's support, Mia began taking small steps toward her vision. She hosted her first floral workshop, teaching a group of eager participants how to create seasonal bouquets. The event was a hit, leaving attendees inspired and asking for more. Emboldened by the response, Mia decided to rent a larger space nearby, turning it into a studio for classes and events. Watching her confidence grow, Daniel felt a sense of pride he hadn't experienced in years. Here was someone who embodied resilience and creativity, someone who reminded him daily of the beauty in starting anew. And in return, Mia appreciated how Daniel celebrated her ambitions without overshadowing her independence. Their connection deepened further during quiet moments, shared cups of coffee in the mornings, late-night conversations about life and dreams, and playful banter over board games with Lily. These ordinary moments became extraordinary because of the love woven through them. Love wasn't loud or flashy in their world. It was steady, patient, and kind. One chilly winter evening, as snowflakes drifted lazily outside, Daniel pulled Mia aside after putting Lily to bed. There's something I've been wanting to say, he began, his voice steady but tinged with nervousness. You've changed my life in ways I never thought possible. Before you, I was just surviving. Now I feel like I'm truly living again. Mia's breath caught in her throat. She reached for his hand, squeezing it gently. You've done the same for me, she replied softly. I didn't think I had space for anyone else in my heart. But here you are, proving me wrong in the best way possible. Daniel smiled, his eyes shining with unshed tears. I don't want to rush us into anything, but I need you to know. You're it for me. If you'll have me, I want to spend the rest of my life showing you how much you mean to me. Mia felt her own tears welling up, but she managed a shaky laugh. You already do that every day. For a long moment, they simply held each other, the warmth of their embrace chasing away the chill of the season. Neither needed grand declarations or dramatic gestures. Their love spoke loudest in the quiet spaces between words. As spring approached, Daniel surprised Mia with an outing to her favorite garden, a sprawling oasis bursting with blooms. Hand in hand, they strolled along winding paths lined with tulips, daffodils, and cherry blossoms. The air smelled sweet, carrying the promise of renewal. When they reached a secluded clearing surrounded by rose bushes, Daniel stopped and turned to face her. In his hand was a small velvet box. Kneeling down, he opened it to reveal a delicate ring nestled among petals. Mia, he said, his voice trembling with emotion, you've shown me that love isn't about forgetting. It's about remembering and growing. Will you marry me and help me write the next chapter of our story? Tears streamed down Mia's face as she nodded, pulling him into a tight hug. Yes, she whispered, her voice breaking. 1,000 times yes. In that moment, surrounded by flowers and laughter, their journey came full circle. From a chance encounter in a tiny flower shop to a love that bloomed against all odds, they proved that even in the face of loss, life could be beautiful again. The months leading up to the wedding were a whirlwind of planning, laughter, and quiet moments of reflection. For Mia and Daniel, it wasn't just about organizing an event. It was about celebrating everything they had built together. Every decision they made carried meaning, from the choice of venue to the smallest details of decor. They wanted their special day to feel like a tribute to their journey, simple yet heartfelt, intimate yet joyful. Mia decided early on that she wanted the ceremony to take place in her garden, the very same one where Daniel had proposed. It wasn't large or extravagant, but it held memories they both cherished. The space was alive with flowers of every color, their petals swaying gently in the breeze. With some help from friends and family, they transformed it into a magical setting, stringing fairy lights between trees and lining the aisles with mason jars filled with wildflowers. Lily played a central role in the preparations, eager to contribute however she could. She helped pick out her dress, a soft yellow sundress that matched the sunflowers, and practiced walking down the aisle with a basket of petals. "I'm going to throw them just right," she told Mia during one of their rehearsals, her face glowing with excitement. "It's gonna be perfect." And perfect it was. On the morning of the wedding, the air buzzed with anticipation. Mia stood in front of the mirror, smoothing the fabric of her flowing white gown. Her hair was styled loosely, adorned with tiny blossoms Daniel had picked earlier that week. As she looked at her reflection, she felt a wave of gratitude, not just for the life she was stepping into, but for the people who had shaped her along the way. Daniel, meanwhile, paced nervously near the altar, adjusting his tie for the 100th time. He glanced around at the guests, friends, colleagues, and neighbors who had gathered to celebrate with them, and then at Lily, who sat proudly in the front row clutching a bouquet almost as big as she was. When the music began to play, signaling Mia's entrance, he turned toward the path lined with flowers, his breath catching in his throat. As Mia walked toward him, escorted by her oldest friend, Daniel couldn't help but marvel at how far they'd come. Just over a year ago, he had walked into her flower shop unsure of what to say or do, weighed down by grief and uncertainty. Now here they were, surrounded by love and light, ready to start a new chapter together. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, the crowd erupted in cheers. But for Mia and Daniel, the world seemed to fade away. All that mattered was the moment. Their hands clasped tightly, their eyes locked in a silent promise to stand by each other through whatever lay ahead. The reception that followed was filled with laughter, dancing, and heartfelt speeches. One guest recounted how Mia's kindness had brightened their darkest days, while another shared a story about Daniel's generosity behind the scenes at work. Each word painted a picture of two people who gave endlessly, not because they sought recognition, but because it was simply who they were. At one point, Daniel took the microphone to address everyone. His voice trembled slightly as he spoke. "Today isn't just about me and Mia, it's about all of you, about the community we've built, the memories we share, and the love that connects us. Without Emily, I wouldn't be the man I am today. And without Mia, I wouldn't have found the courage to keep moving forward. So thank you for being here, for supporting us, and for reminding me that life is worth living fully." By the end of the night, the garden sparkled under the glow of fairy lights, and the air was thick with happiness. Mia and Daniel danced, under the stars, their movements slow and deliberate, savoring every second. Nearby, Lily twirled in circles, her giggles echoing through the night. It was a scene straight out of a dream, one that neither of them ever thought possible but now couldn't imagine living without. In the weeks that followed, life settled into a rhythm that felt both familiar and new. Mia continued to expand, her flower shop, hosting workshops and collaborating with local artists. Her studio became a hub of creativity, drawing people from all walks of life. Daniel supported her efforts wholeheartedly, often stopping by with coffee or surprising her with fresh blooms to display. For Lily, having Mia officially part of their family felt natural, as if she had always belonged. Together, they baked cookies, read bedtime stories, and planned adventures to nearby parks. Daniel watched them interact with a sense of awe, realizing how much lighter his heart felt knowing they had each other. But perhaps the most profound change was in how they approached life itself. Grief no longer loomed over them like a shadow, instead it became a reminder of the beauty and connection. They understood now that love wasn't finite, It didn't disappear when someone passed away. Instead, it evolved, growing stronger with time and care. One evening, as they sat together on the porch watching the sunset, Daniel leaned over and kissed Mia's forehead. "You know," he said softly, "I used to think happiness was something you either had or didn't. But now I see it's more than that. It's a choice. A decision to find joy even when things are hard." Mia nodded, resting her head on his shoulder. "And sometimes it finds you when you least expect it," she added with a smile, "like in a flower shop on a random Tuesday." They laughed, the sound blending seamlessly with the rustling leaves and chirping crickets. In that moment, surrounded by the beauty of nature and the warmth of their bond, they knew they had found something rare and precious, a love that endured, a life worth living, and a future full of endless possibilities. Years later, when customers visited Blossoms and Beyond, they often noticed a framed photo hanging near the counter. It showed a man kneeling among flowers holding out a ring as a woman smiled through tears. Beneath it was a simple caption, "Love blooms in unexpected places." To Mia and Daniel, it was more than just a memory. It was a testament to the power of kindness, resilience, and second chances. Their story reminded everyone who heard it that even in the face of loss, hope could flourish. And sometimes, all it took was a single act of compassion to change a life forever.